Hello friends and welcome back! As eager as I would be to jump right back into my blacksmithing videos because I cannot tell you how excited I am to embark on my childhood well, I was about 16 to 18 when I got into Skyrim, so I can't really call it a childhood dream. My younger teenage dreams of being a Skyrim blacksmith. I'm gonna put that on hold for a bit because I did just realize that I'm a little underprepared to start on that journey and I am running out of time this week to put a video together. So to make sure that there is something for you guys to enjoy and hopefully learn some DIY skills from, I am going to tackle a problem that has been giving me a bit of trauma for a while. And that is the lack of quality in leather belts these days. The last time I got a leather belt, I was specifically looking for something, genuine leather, that would never fall apart and never let me down. Well, that belt, as you can see today, has let me down. This belt seems to be two pieces of leather fused together in the center, and obviously the glue has given way about where the belt buckle goes through the hole, so that has weakened it over time and ripped the two laminated pieces apart. I am left without a belt, and my other belt that I had a while back, this I haven't worn for quite a while because it's undergoing similar issues. It's tearing, it's fraying, it's falling apart. I can't go back to using this either. But there is some light at the end of the tunnel. I have noticed that both belts have completely detachable buckles. This one is held on by two screws, and then this one is a clip mechanism. So if I pull this latch, its teeth will open up and I can pull it straight off the belt. I'm not going to be making two belts today because I do only have brown leather stain, and I think that this buckle, the traditional pin and hoop buckle, is going to look best with a brown belt. So I'm going to take this apart, and with a couple of simple tools that you may even have lying around the house already, or that you could easily get access to, I'm going to be using this precision cut craft knife, this hole punch kit, and this craft cutting board. With these things, I'm going to turn this sad old belt into a brand new one with a little bit of leather. And if you have access to leather in your areas, I would estimate that you could be using maybe $10 worth of leather. You may need to buy a larger piece, and perhaps you can make a couple of belts out of that. But all things considered, rather than spending $50 on a new belt, which is roughly what I'm having to spend as it is, you could make one yourself for $10 of leather, $6 to $8 in hole punch, and I think this was a $4 craft knife. And then if you get yourself some leather stain, that I would consider a workshop consumable. You'd use maybe 50 cents worth of stain, and then you'll have a bottle of stain for all your future projects. Because you only use a fairly small amount, it's quite potent stuff, don't get it on your hands. So I am going to be wearing gloves this time, and trying very hard not to get it on my white shirt. But first things first, a sip of coffee and let's get things rocking. As luck would have it, my old belt is exactly the same width as this metal ruler. So, since I now have a straight edge, which I just created on this main piece of leather, all I need to do to get the right dimensions is line it up roughly with the edge. I might add a ½ millimeter, just because I think it was slightly small, but almost negligible. So long as this doesn't move, I can take my knife and cut along this straight edge of the ruler, and it should be a leather belt. Almost. Now between my belts, I think I prefer this finish more than the other one, so what I'm just going to do is I will trace this more or less onto this belt strap, or maybe I could even just cut around this one. If I slip and stuff it up, does it really matter? I'm getting rid of it anyway, so... So to avoid as much mess as possible, I've laid the leather strip out on this baking paper, and what I'm going to be using to stain is this saddle tan dye. So you can see there, I paid $8.80 for this entire bottle, and this is how much? Oh, in big bold letters, 125 ml. But I'm going to be applying it to a rag and then just spreading it across this entire surface. But of course, with gloves, because I cannot tell you how much this would stain. Whenever you're putting this away, you want to make sure that lid is on tight, because if this goes anywhere and it falls on an item of clothing that you love and adore, it's going to be brown, or black, or red, or whatever stain that you've got, it is going to be that color, and I'm pretty sure you're never going to get that out. So, always take care of this stuff. Very, very, very difficult to get out of clothes, if not impossible. I'd probably say impossible. So I've got these very fashionable, unmatching pink and yellow gloves, and I'm hoping that they're going to be thick enough to stop this from going through. And to apply it, I'm just going to be using this synthetic cloth. I know that I could be using those cotton buds on a wire. I think that's how most leather workers will apply their stains, but I haven't gotten around to getting those. Plus, I'm trying to show you guys that these sorts of hobbies can be done on a budget with bits and pieces that you have lying around. It's not the best case scenario, but it will work. They're just applying a nice little shake to it, and we're just going to apply it in nice, even strokes. Saturating that leather. I'm probably going to have to go over it a couple of times because this leather is going to be thirsty. It's going to go in there, and I want it to be as even as possible. Already, I can see that I'm having issues keeping it even, but that's all right. We'll just keep applying until it is. Now that that's all been very well stained, I'm going to leave this to dry for a while, and then after it's completed its drying process, I'm going to apply a polyurethane coat which should seal it and also stop any of this dye leaching out onto your clothes. And seeing as I'm finished with the bottle, very first thing I'll do is make sure that's shut. We don't want any accidents today. Another side thought I had is the reason why it might be better to use those cotton buds is you can see how much of the stain this rag has absorbed, and it's not all easily transferring onto the belt. If you had the appropriate cotton buds, they will hold a lot of this stain, but they will also release almost all of it, so you'll get a lot less wastage, because who knows, there could be maybe 2 or 3 mils tied up in there, which it's not much, but it's all cost to you at the end of the day. So if you can get those little cotton buds on wire holders, that would be ideal. Okay, so I've taken this outside, left it to dry for a while. I was going to do the top coat, hence the brand new gloves, but I think what I might actually do is put the holes into the belt before I do that. I've got a hole punch here. This is a 3mm hole punch. I've got this block of scrap timber and a wooden mallet. For the placement of the holes, I am going to use this old belt that I had. I'm just going to pop it down on top, mark where these holes are, and then I'm going to come along with this hole punch and just punch those out. We're just doing the best we can here today, folks. I'm going to use this pen to just pop that through the hole, so make sure the end's about lined up. There we go, so that's roughly where they need to be. Grab your block of timber, place it underneath where you're going to be putting a hole. And this is the point of no return. Make sure it's nice in the center, and there is your hole. I think it kind of ends up being a little bit wider than 3mm because this does press the leather apart. Maybe with a bit of time movement that will close the hole back up. And then we just move on to the next one. Four belt holes and approximately the distance that I would require. So now I can move on to doing that top coat. So this top coat advertises that it is excellent for all leather. This one being a form of leather, it should be good enough for me. And now that my brand new leather belt is just about done, whilst that top coat is drying, I'm going to salvage the buckle from the old belt. I've got my teeny tiny screwdriver, so I'm going to undo those 2 teeny tiny screws, and it will be free of its old bindings. Alright, so a part of me feels like I should have done this earlier, because now that I've undone this, it seems that there is a particular cutout that I'm going to need to make on the brand new belt so that it can actually accept the buckle. So I'm just going to get the craft knife and basically copy this exact pattern once it's done drying, and then I should be able to slot it right onto the end. And there we go. Just a couple of small cuts and 2 pre-drilled holes, we are ready to attach the buckle. And with that, this belt is complete. It is ever so slightly shorter than my usual belt. I couldn't quite get the length on the piece of leather that I was working with. It thickens out in the center, but I didn't want to cut a strip right out of the center because then I won't be able to use it for other projects later on. So I do want to conserve as much material as possible. So this has just gone to show that with basically no leatherworking experience, a piece of leather, some hole punches, a craft knife, and an old buckle that you can salvage for the project, you can basically recreate a belt, and rather than spending $50 to get a genuine leather belt from these shops, all you need are some materials, and I would say a belt like this would run you in the realms of $10 or so, or $10 to $20, including everything. There are some upfront costs, so if you wanted to start working with leather, the stains, the top coats, the conditioners, all that sort of stuff is going to cost you a little bit more, but since you would apply it over 20, 30, 40, 50 different projects, depending on how long those materials last for, it's not really factoring into your per unit cost. So you can save a lot of money by just grabbing your old belt buckles, getting rid of the old leather if it's frayed, torn, falling apart, discolored. If you've got access to some leather and a couple of simple tools, you can do this project yourself at home. So this has been a fun little interlude, a return to the easier DIY projects. I will be getting back into the blacksmithing hopefully next week. But I just thought, since I've got the time and since my belts are just falling apart on me, I wanted to get this one out of the way. I wanted to get a belt that I would be able to actually wear out in public. So this is going to be my new belt. I'm going to be wearing it every single day. So this project, it's helped me. It's shown you guys what you should be able to do on your own if you ever wanted to give it a try. It's very easy. Anyone can put 4 holes into a strip of leather and attach a pre-existing buckle to the end. You can do it. But that's it from me today. I hope I've inspired anyone who's been wondering whether or not they can get into entry-level leatherworking to give it a go themselves. But other than that, be good, take care, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! Dive straight back into the blacksmithing this week because I've had to take a slight...